Hello, Howie Bentley here. Welcome to episode number 5 of Sword and Sorcery Heavy Metal. Today I'm going to be talking with Marco Concoreggi, also known as Mark Dexter, the vocalist for true metal band Dexter Ward. Dexter Ward is comprised of members from both Italy and Greece. Let's check out what Marco has to say. Hey Marco, how are you?
Everything's fine here. Thank you, Howie. Thank you for having me.
Great to hear that. Well, I'm very honored for you to be on my show and helping me get this started. So you are the vocalist for Dexter Ward, and you go by the name Mark Dexter when you're singing for Dexter Ward. Now, the Dexter Ward name came from, there was an H.P. Lovecraft novel written in 1927 called The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, and that novel didn't see publication, at least intact, until 1943, I think. It was like 6 years after Lovecraft's death. He died in 1937, and that novel was published in a collection by Arkham House. I believe it was called Beyond the Wall of Sleep, the collection was. So anyway, just giving our viewers a little bit of history here, and I think a lot of them probably already know this, but where your name came from. But what made you choose that particular name? And also, it's a two-part question. Could you also give me a little history on the formation of Dexter Ward?
Yeah, sure. Well, first question, it's basically my favorite Lovecraft story, and the first H.P. Lovecraft story I've read. So it's I always had a fascination for this novel, a short novel. Actually, it's also it also can be seen metaphorically. You know, Joseph Curwen being back from the dead. Okay, reborn from his essential souls. In a way, it can be compared to the idea I had for the mission of Dexter Ward, to bring back, 80s heavy metal with US metal influences, the whole thing, and from the passion that we had for this kind of music. So, I mean, our ideas, our songs, our passion, and the whole Dexter Ward project could be compared to, let's say, an act of magic to bring back a US metal from its essential souls, preserved through the centuries. So this was basically the idea I had for Dexter Ward. But the name came even before I had met, the actual band members. It was a one-man project in the beginning. I never thought about having a real band, It was just another project like I had before. I had another project called Hyrkanian Blades, and this was the natural progression. And I thought after the Hyrkanian Blades project that started late 90s, in the late 90s, and lasted for around 10 years, up to 2009, I guess. From 2008 to 2009, I had this idea for a new project that was destined to be a one-man project called Dexter Ward. In the beginning, I call it Dexter Ward Band because I didn't have any marketing, idea in mind. It was just my little project. And then the thing was, I was singing for a band before Dexter Ward, a band from Greece, an epic metal band named Battleroar.
A very influential Greek metal band.
Yeah, thinking about it now, I can understand it actually was influential, and I'm very proud of what we did. Really proud about what we did. But at the time, while I was, I was living through it, and I didn't really realize. I mean, I thought we were a good band, but I didn't really realize that after some years, perhaps some other newer bands, younger bands, could take us as a, let's say, not as a model, of course, but I mean, could yeah, as some kind of as a little help, okay, to build the epic metal scene in Greece. And I mean, I don't see what we did as something that can influence so much people, but I meet people, I meet young musicians in Greece and also in, you know, throughout Europe when we play, in Italy also, and they tell me that they have memories of their younger years when they started playing, and they were listening to the Battleroar albums, and this gave them, you know, some passion to go on writing their own stuff. And I believe this is the best thing, you know, any musician can hope for. At least this is the best thing I could hope for with my music. And so I was singing for Battleroar. I wasn't the original singer. I joined them in 2002 after they had already a demo and 7 inches with a different lineup. And then their singer Vangelis left. And I was there because I had met the guys. I had met some of the guys from Battleroar, Manolis, the guitar player, in the USA in 2001. And it was at the time me and you met actually for the first and only time that we met. We met in Kalamazoo, Michigan, for the Classic Metal Fest. The first, I guess it was the first edition of the festival. And I met Manolis, which is now the guitar player of one of the 2 guitar players of Dexter Ward. And he was there. He had joined Battleroar. He had this band Battleroar in Athens, in his hometown. But I didn't know about the band. I mean, he just gave me an email address to get in touch. And the year after, in 2002, I listened to what they had done, to the demo and their first recordings. And I went to Athens to attend a couple gigs that they were playing with Omen, which was one of our favorite US metal band. And still is. So out of the blue, I just, I bought my plane tickets and I went to Athens. It was my first time in Athens. I'd never been there before. And then again, I met Manolis, and I met also the other band members of Battleroar. I attended their shows and liked their music and their live act very much. And after a while, the news came and they had lost their bass player and singer. So I had brought with me in 2002, in March 2002, I had brought a small demo that I had made at home in my bedroom, with a PC and a very rudimental recording hardware, and and there were some songs that I had done, that I had recorded, originals, some original songs I had written and recorded as demo. And they liked what they heard, and so I became the new singer. And we went through around 7 years, let's say 6-7 years of life with this lineup, and we ended with our 3rd album, To Death and Beyond. It was released in 2008, if I'm not wrong. And around 2009, me and Manolis, we left Battleroar. And at that time, I had some songs written that weren't used for Battleroar because they were more in the, let's say, with Battleroar, it was a situation where we were trying to have a more orthodox approach to epic heavy metal. I mean, there couldn't be songs that talked about things that were not traditionally associated with epic metal. I mean, for example, if I wanted to speak about robots and science fiction or whatever, it would be a problem, you know what I mean? Or movies like Escape from New York, or those action movies. It would be a problem to do that. So I felt, after a few years, I felt like I wanted to expand a little bit, to have more freedom to speak about what I want to speak. That's one of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons why I left. And at that time when I was without a band, Manolis also was didn't have a band. I had those songs sitting there, and I thought they were good songs. So I asked him if he wanted to start a new adventure with me, and that's how Dexter Ward was born. I had already some songs from the Hyrkanian Blades days, which were more epic metal in style, and some more demos that I had made through the years, but they weren't fitting the Battleroar style because they were more traditional, let's say, new wave of British heavy metal, US metal kind of songs. Also lyrically, I mean, they weren't epic lyrically. They weren't referring to any, heroic fantasy or sword and sorcery or mythology or history. Some songs were about video games. We have the song called Double Dragon from, the video game, or Robocop, songs like that. Ghost Rider, yeah, right. About movies and video games and whatever, comic books. So this is how it started with Dexter Ward. And Manolis is, as you know, is very active always been very active in the Athenian and Greek underground heavy metal scene. He's the organizer and mastermind of the Up the Hammers festival, and is very good promoter and very interested and very passionate about the whole underground scene. So he contacted some people, some musicians, some local musicians in Athens. I am the only Italian actually in the band. The band is Greek. I am the only Italian guy in the band. So he contacted some guys that were interested in doing this Dexter Ward project with us, and that's how Dexter Ward was born. It was 2009, and then in 2010, I guess we did our first demo. It was I don't even remember how many songs, but it was 3 or 4 songs. I think it was Antarctic Dream, another song called Double Dragon, Youngblood, and I don't remember, probably those 3, I believe. Soon after, we played a couple shows, 2 or 3 shows, and they were okay. I mean, we were starting to get tight as a band. I mean, it was working. Okay, the alchemy, the chemistry was there. Then we had a change of drummer. And so the lineup, let's say the historical lineup of Dexter Ward was born, which is Stelios Tarakis on drums, Akis Pastras on rhythm lead guitars, Manolis Karazeris, the other guitar player, okay, John Luna Chimas, the bass player, and me, Marco Concoreggi. As you said, I go under the name of Mark J. Dexter on vocals. With this lineup, we did 3 albums. Neon Lights, the first one. I think it was around 2012. Then we did To Death and Beyond, the second album, 2016, if I'm not wrong, 2016. Both you and all the listeners, please excuse me for my poor spoken English.
Oh, it's great.
I guess great, I hope people will be able to understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
at least the most, at least the main idea. And then we had our third album, and the latest album was released in 2020, and it was called Three. Our third album, which actually was our best effort so far, I guess, in terms of songwriting and production and everything. It was it was a very special moment for us, that album. It was also the album that was better. We had the best reviews that we have been having through the whole career of Dexter Ward. So it's been an album that gave us a lot of satisfaction. But unfortunately, after the third album, the pandemic happened, and the world showed its worst face. many things changed, starting from the impossibility to play, or the difficulty to play live shows, and the mood. Personally, I was destroyed by it because I had invested a lot in terms of. As everybody else, of course, but since you're talking to me, I will tell you what happened to me. I was very happy when the album was released, and I was very pumped up for the shows that we had booked. We had some shows booked for after the release of the album, and I was very happy, and I was making my own stage gear, and I was applying all kinds of decorations to the jacket and making the gloves, leather gloves and stuff like that, because I wanted the live shows to be a better experience, a more professional experience, also visually, for the audience. I was planning things, and all at once this pandemic thing came, and it really killed me. I had left behind many things here at home. For example, I have a small daughter. My daughter was smaller than she is now. She's 12 years old now, but she was, of course, younger back then. And she was 4 years younger. And I had invested a lot of time, a lot of effort. I had left, family life on one side, and I had invested a lot of energies and time and everything on this project. So I thought it would pay back in terms of satisfaction, not in terms of money, of course, because there's no money involved at this point. But it was just a matter of personal satisfaction. But it didn't work out, and I felt like all was for nothing. Then I wasn't even singing or playing or touching instruments for a long time after that. So it was pretty bad time. But fortunately, in the last year or so, I got back the drive and the will to do new music and to play. We had the chance to meet again with the guys and and fix also those things that were kind of I don't know, didn't work so well also in terms of band dynamics. When I went through this difficult period and I left everything behind, and things had to be rebuilt also in terms of band relationships and everything. And fortunately, the guys are great. They understood, and we are back on track now. So we have played one show in Athens a few months ago. The end of 2023. It went really well. We played with Omen. And then again, we are going to play a couple shows now in February, in a few days, February the 2nd and February the 3rd. We have two shows in the central part of Italy. So we are back on track. I'm very happy about it. And this was the story of Dexter Ward so far, more or less.
Yeah, sometimes you need a break. I've taken several. I've just walked away from it before, and I've said, to hell with this. I'm not doing this anymore. But then after a while, you start feeling the drive to do it again, and you go back to it. And like I said, I've done that a number of times. But I want to back up to something here now. When you're talking about the lyrical themes on Dexter Ward album,
yeah,
I was listening to Neon Lights last night. Did I say the right title?
Yeah, Neon Lights.
Yeah. Make sure I didn't get it mixed up with that Black Sabbath song. I was listening to that last night, and I was thinking, well, there really aren't really any epic or sword and sorcery themes on this album. And then I looked. That's the only album that I have. I used to sell it in my distro, and I sold all the copies pretty quick, but I kept one back for myself. And I was listening to that last night and thinking, well, and then I looked up on Metal Archive some of the lyrical themes, and it seems like on the third album, on 3, that you return to some of these epic themes. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's say that when we started, the main idea, as I mentioned, probably I mentioned before, was to be able to express, that's also lyrically, mainly lyrically, to express all those themes and stories and ideas that before in Battleroar they couldn't fit. I mean, they were considered not fitting for the band style, and rightly so, because I mean thinking about it now, I can understand, the logic behind this. But then I felt a little frustrated, you know what I mean? But nowadays, I think it was correct. I mean, I totally agree with that decision. But at the same time, I also wanted to speak about different things that couldn't be spoken of back then, at least not in the Battleroar albums, or let's say that they weren't fitting also the music. Actually, that was developed, that was written for the Battleroar albums, so that was calling, that was asking for deeper themes, more dramatic themes, more themes related to some kind of different scenery, different topics. So when we did the first album, we all agreed about having songs that were like a break. It was considered like a break from what we had before with Battleroar, okay? And so we wanted to do something different, something that was sounding both musically but mostly lyrically different. That's why there's no sword and sorcery or heroic fantasy or there's no epic, really epic themes there, but mostly video games, as I told you, Double Dragon or Ghost Rider, about movies and comic books. What else? We have songs about songs like Youngblood, which is about being young and playing heavy metal music. It's kind of cliche. They can be considered. Apparently they can be considered like cliche songs, but if you read behind the lines, you read between the lines, you will find some something that is not so, is not exactly cliche. What we wanted to do, for example, a song like Youngblood, it's a song that is not only about the passion and the joy of playing heavy metal and and expressing your youth, but it was also a take on some kind of Christian heavy metal, white metal that I am a fan of. But what I want to say is that I'm not speaking about personal beliefs. Okay, everybody has their own, everybody have their own beliefs, but I'm not speaking about beliefs here. But I treat it as some kind of imagery, if you know what I mean. It's like, for example, there are bands that speak about Tolkien, okay, Lord of the Rings. There are bands that speak about, certain, the Sumerians, okay. There are bands that speak about Norse mythology, and they base their own appearance and their own, Amon Amarth, for example, bands like that. So I don't know if those bands actually believe in what they write and what they sing. Okay, if they do what they say, the characters in their songs are doing. What I wanted to do was to take this let's say imagery and mythology, okay, and put it on a song. Not to mock it, okay, but to use it as I would use, for example, some characters from from a fictional story that I like. You know what I mean? If you take, for example, I just want to open a little this little topic just to expand on it a little more. What I want to say is that, for example, when you read the Bible. I've been reading the Bible. I haven't been through the whole books, but I've been reading here and there, and I'm not speaking about personal beliefs. Okay, I have my personal beliefs, but I'm not speaking about them now. I'm speaking only about the scenery, the imagery. There are very powerful images. Okay, very powerful images in the Bible, I believe, and especially in the Old Testament. Okay, the books of the Old Testament. And it's not a matter of believing in it or not. It's a matter of realizing how those episodes, how those characters actually they are recurrent in our how can I say, in our nowadays, even when we don't realize it, we find some how can I say? Sometimes we say some phrases, okay, and we don't even realize that they come from the Bible, okay, or or some imagery, okay, and we don't realize, or some names, for example, we don't realize, but they are biblical terms, okay, biblical characters, biblical imagery. So I think that it makes a very good source for inspiration, okay, because there are some symbols there that can very well translate to to music, and I find it very inspirational. I find it a never-ending source of inspiration. But this doesn't have anything to do with belief, okay. As I said, I have my own belief, but I'm not speaking about that now. Right, I'm just speaking about lyrics, okay. So there are one of the themes for Dexter Ward is also this white metal Christian themes, which I always try to bring in opposition to some other kind of themes that I believe they are not, in my personal idea, of course, and I don't want to hurt anybody's sensitivity, but I believe that some things. They are not good enough for heavy metal. I mean, you have to respect heavy metal. You know what I mean? You can't speak about something that is in my idea. I mean, I think there are some things that are totally anti-human, okay. They're inhuman. They're not bringing any glory, any power, any how can I say, they are not making the human being become a powerful human being, a human being that actually reaches for something better, okay. But they are just taking down the human being, and this is not something I want for Dexter Ward. I always wanted something to uplift, if not the mood, at least to give you something to think about, to make your life better. You know what I mean? So this is the mindset that I put myself in when I try to write lyrics for Dexter Ward, and that's why also sometimes I borrow some things from some the imagery of white metal Christian metal bands. From this point of view, okay, I'm not preaching or anything, because, for example, I like Venom, okay, I like a lot of Venom lyrics. That's not, for me, they are perfectly fitting the music, but I mean, Venom weren't taking themselves so seriously with their lyrics. I mean, the lyrics fit very well the songs. But it's not that they were doing, the things that they were talking about in their lyrics. I don't know if I can explain, if I was able to explain my point of view about this topic. It's quite controversial, perhaps.
Well, that's what you're here for, to be controversial.
Yeah, I mean, it's I just don't want to go to a show and find myself in a situation where I only get I only get filled with feelings that take me down instead of taking me up. Okay, instead of making me wanting to bring my guitar and to write some heavy metal riffs. You know what I mean? I want to have something that helps me to be better and to be more powerful and to be more to have more energy. Okay, I don't want to get there and be drained of my energy. You know what I mean? Or being reminded of how much life sucks and stuff like that. I mean, I know it does. So there's no reason to be reminded. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
enrich the human condition.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is it. I mean, whatever the topic might be. I mean, we can speak about. You can. depending on what your idea is about life and about the destiny of man, and and about the actually the reason why we are here, okay, and it doesn't matter about what your idea is, but there is always somebody who want to use music, okay, to in a way to express only to express aggression, only to express the bad feelings, okay, like you want to you want to go out and run or drive your car very fast because you are you're in a fit of rage, because you just want to take it outside, okay, you want to take the rage outside. I don't believe this is I don't believe this kind of attitude honors music. I don't believe this kind of attitude honors heavy metal. There must be a connection, in my opinion, between aggressiveness and and control. And you must have some kind of, you must have a vision, okay? It's not enough to be wild. It's not enough to be extreme, okay? And nowadays, I believe that there's some bands that do that. They have always been there, but nowadays, I mean, some people consider heavy metal this way, okay? They don't see the honorable side of it. They don't see the I can say the interesting side of it. I mean, for example, the way you talk about your literary interests in your music with Cauldron Born, or your takes on a certain type of literature and movies with Britain Rights. It's on another level. It's on a very high level. I mean, and this is the level, I guess, should be looked upon and should be taken as an inspiration for good heavy metal, for music that has something to say. Okay, so I'm closing the topic here, but your question actually was about why with 3 we went back to epic metal and more sword and sorcery, heroic fantasy tales and themes. It was it came on its own, because after a couple albums, when we were, as I was mentioning before, when we were expressing what we couldn't express before in Battleroar, and on the second album, Rendezvous with Destiny, we tried to put in some more epicness. Okay, we had some songs. For example, my favorite song from the second album is called "The Stone Age Warrior," which could be very well be considered a song that we could have done with Battleroar, for example. And lyrically, it's all about sword and sorcery, because I took inspiration from several things, and one of them was the works of Ashton Smith. For example, The Abominations of Yondo, the story, short story. There's in a way, it's not a song that speaks about that story, but there's also a little bit of that story on the, this kind of savage character that he lives in a time when dinosaurs roam the earth. Or we're not speaking about the earth, actually. The planet is not known. Okay, it is a Stone Age warrior whose tribe was totally destroyed by a dinosaur, a very fierce dinosaur, and he's taking the dinosaur is not a dinosaur like the ones we read about in the books. It's actually a very sentient dinosaur. It's a it's what I imagined as a member of a tribe of dinosaurs who had their own civilization. I mean, they had built their own civilization. So it's he didn't, the dinosaur didn't kill, didn't destroy the tribe of the main character of the song. Just for, you know, just looking for food, but it was a meditated act. So the character wants revenge, and he just travels through lands that are filled with danger, and there's wizardry also, because he to get back to the, you know, to the dinosaur that he wants to kill. He's stealing a dragonfly, a giant dragonfly from a warlock. He has to kill a warlock, and he has to steal his giant dragonfly and mount it in order to you know, to get back at the dinosaur and to ride. Yeah. He has to ride it. I mean, it's full of this kind of very exotic imagery, and sometimes people tell me, okay, it's too much. You wrote a bunch of bullshit. Okay, it's not a bunch of bullshit, because if you read some tales, for example, from Ashton Smith, you will find this, it's full of those things. I mean, it's the best part of it. I mean, I like a lot of those exotic descriptions of weapons, or you know, the way the characters are dressed. Okay, with the skins of strange animals or whatever. I think there was a story. I don't know how it is pronounced, but it is the Maze of Maldweb. Maldweb. Right. Okay. It's one of my favorite stories from Ashton Smith, and the barbaric hunter, okay, that wants to get back that enters the labyrinth, okay, the maze. Clark Ashton Smith was describing the way he was dressed and the weapons he had, and this really influenced me for the song. I wanted to, you know, to describe the main character of Stone Age Warrior in a similar fashion as he did on that story. And then there's also other things like the Snake Man, or taken from, you know, Howard stories, and many things. Or the ruins of an older civilization that had reached an enormous scientific and technological knowledge, but then again was lost after some kind of cataclysm or a great war. In the song I say about that there was a great war that brought back man back to the Stone Age. Okay, but the Stone Age filled with magic and filled with also technology, because as it often happens in those stories, there are people, or there are groups of people that they actually their magic is based on a very high
super science.
Yeah, super science. Yeah, that's it. So this is Stone Age Warrior, more or less. But this is just a song that we had on the second album. The other songs, there are a couple. There's a couple of songs about the Crusades. One is called Knights of Jerusalem, and another is called Fighting for the Cross. But that's it. I mean, we didn't have anything else. I mean, in the epics, on the epic side, and no sword and sorcery for sure. The third album, I don't know. We went through a difficult period after the second album, because we didn't really have the right balance for the new songs we were writing, and we weren't sure about the direction of what the third album, what we could explore, what we could do with the third album. Also, I lost interest to a certain extent, okay, during those years, for personal reasons that had nothing to do with the band. Between us, we are like brothers. We really love each other. But it was life sometimes deals unexpected things, and you just have to find your balance. And I wasn't very much balanced in that period. So we had a couple years. We weren't doing much. we did a cover or something like that. We made our own demos, but there wasn't. Didn't have a clear idea for a third album. And then all at once we started writing, and songs came very fast. In a matter of 3 months, we had the whole. We had all the songs for a third album done. And what happened was that those songs, the inspiration for those songs came from mostly from the same inspiration that was there when we were doing, let's say, the Battleroar albums. So we came back to epic themes. We came back to stories. We had songs that in a way they harken back to what we did with Battleroar when we were speaking about Harry Howard related topics. For example, in Battleroar we had a song called Hyrkanian Blades, and we had another song called Sword of Chrome. Another song was called The Tower of the Elephant, which was a musical rendition of Robert E. Howard Conan's story, whereas Sword of Chrome and the Hyrkanian Blades were based on the Hyborian Age period and description of Howard, both in Howard books and stories, and in Savage Sword of Conan and Conan the Barbarian comic books. Okay, this is because this, in Italy we didn't have the original. I couldn't get a hold of the original comic books, but we had our own Italian editions. Mm-hmm. And so I was not a collector, but I loved a lot this kind of comic books, and I was buying as much as I could. So some things, they are pretty generic. Okay, they are taken both from comic books, stories, and Howard writings. And with Dexter Ward, the third album, we did the Return of the Blades, which is some kind of extension of Hyrkanian Blades, and also we did Conan the Barbarian, which is an extension of Sword of Chrome from the Battleroar days. Not musically, I mean the music is different. There are different songs. It's not. We're not copying what we did before, but I mean, this is what we wanted to talk about. This is what we wanted to say. Okay, we wanted to get back to what we had left back then. So those are the two Robert E. Howard songs, related songs in the new album. Then we have another song called "The Dragon of the Mist." Which is not actually let's say it could be in a way read as a sword and sorcery song, but it's more. It was based on a story. See this book? This is called Racconti di Fantascienza, science fiction stories. Okay, this is a book my father had in his personal collection. I don't believe he ever read it, because he was buying books and he was saving them for the right moment. Okay, as you said in a post, I saw a post something that you posted, in the last some days ago, or yesterday or today, and you were saying and what you posted was saying this, and yes, he was buying books and he was saving them, but he was saving them for me, because he didn't actually read them himself. And there is a story here from Ray Bradbury, okay, which is called in Italian it's called The Dragon, and it is not I don't know the English name actually. It's called The Dragon. In Italian, Il Dragone, the dragon, and it's not about what I was speaking about in the song. The song is about a knight trying to take revenge against a magical dragon, and to take the heart of the dragon, which is some kind of a magical relic that will bring back peace in the kingdom. Okay, but what the song is about is this story. It's a science fiction story. In a way, I just took the overall how can I say, mood of the story, the scenery of the story. Okay, this landscape, this very strange landscape. Okay, completely enshrouded in mist, and this knight trying to find the dragon, but not knowing exactly how it looks like, how big it is. And in the story, it's not even a dragon. Okay, in the story, it's a train. In the story, the dragon is a train. And it's some kind of time displacement. There's some kind of time displacement between the knight, okay, searching for a dragon, and a train that is something that belongs to our time and not to the Middle Ages, okay, not to the time frame where the knight is. So in a way, it is a time displacement science fiction story, and it has nothing to do with the Dragon of the Mist, the story on we have on the Dexter Ward album, but it came from this. So sometimes inspiration can come from very weird sources.
Exactly.
We have another song which is called Reign of the White Knight, which is a classical story about an evil sorcerer that takes control of a city, like in the Iborian Age, in the Conan stories. There's
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, there's a pretty big city, and this necromancer actually takes control of it, and he has a legion of reanimated corpses, like an army of zombies, okay, that he with the power of necromancy he raised again, and he.
Sounds like Empire of the Necromancers by Ashton Smith.
Yeah. This was actually another source of inspiration for a little piece of the Reign of the White Knight story. But whereas Empire of the Necromancers just had his own team, and what happens when the necromancy is used in a way against nature, okay, to resurrect the glorious kings and queens of that place, of that city where the travelers were headed, and then they got they got what was coming to them. But here it's just one of the wizards that Conan uses to find and kill in the comic books and in the stories. It's a very powerful necromancer with an army of the undead, and the White Knight is some kind of hero that the people of the city call upon, and one day he arrives to the city and finds the necromancer's lair, and decapitates him and brings back peace to the kingdom. This could be I believe it could be one of the stories that you could find during the 80s, for example, in some Conan book. It's called Conan the Savage Sword of Conan, or Conan the Barbarian comic book. I mean, it's pretty generic, but it works well for that kind of format. Okay, a short story with some kind of unoriginal theme, but it works. It would work well for the song. Mm-hmm. I believe it works well for the song. And then we have other stories. One is called The Demon Slayer. The Demon Slayer is an original story, which is about, then again, it's an original story about an very unoriginal topic, because it's the battle between good and evil, okay, between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. This has been written about, everybody is writing about it. But what I tried to do, what we tried to do, was to have a song that was musically speaking was more it doesn't have a traditional a linear structure. Okay, it changes all the time. I mean, there is a chorus. It's repeated only 2 times through the song, and the riffs they change continuously. I mean, there are different sections. Like I mean, I like a not linear approach to songwriting. You know perfectly what I'm telling you about, because this is what you do also. I mean, you have a lot of riffs, a lot of parts, and but they make sense all together. Okay, and they serve the story. You want to tell a story, you have to bring out also the different emotions of the several parts of the story, and you have to use different musical themes and a different musical language, and that's what we were trying to do. So it starts with like a doom song, for example, and then it develops into a mid-tempo, and the last part is more glorious, because it's the triumph of the forces of heaven, okay, against the demons. But the demon slayer, it is a weapon, and the first part of the song speaks about the forging of this weapon. It's a spear. It's actually a spear, a demonic spear that is imbued with the power of fallen archangels. And it's this spear it's some kind of a sentient, of a living weapon, because it is imbued with the power and the soul of those fallen archangels. And this is used by the forces of hell to attack heaven, okay, and take control of heaven. Like heaven is some kind of a, I don't know, in the song is some kind of a place, okay, it's a location, it's a kingdom, I don't know, and the forces of hell, they armed with this spear, which is the ultimate demonic weapon. They try to take control of heaven and to lay siege to heaven and to make it fall. In the end, they don't succeed, but it's the imagery, especially in the first part, when it is narrated, when the lyrics narrate how the sword, how the spear is made, and all this kind of descriptions. I believe it could be assimilated to some kind of sword and sorcery mode and theme, if not properly a sword and sorcery story, because it's not a sword and sorcery story, okay? But it has those descriptions, this mood that really makes it close to some stories that I've been reading through the years, okay? And then what do we have again? We have another song, which is not about let's say sword and sorcery, strictly speaking, sword and sorcery, but it has many themes that are recurrent in some sword and sorcery stories, and it's called In the Days of Epic Metal. And this song kind of sums up, metaphorically, of course, using imagery from Norse mythology, and Valhalla, Conan stories, whatever. I mean, that it is a how can I say, a pastiche? Can I use that word? It's some kind of like a patchwork of many things that in one after the other, they paint a picture, and the picture is basically everything that we have been doing for the last 25 years. I mean, it is a song about, besides the literal interpretation of the lyrics, it's a song about what we have been doing in the last 25 years, playing heavy metal with epic and heroic fantasy and sword and sorcery elements. And this is depicted in this song, In the Days of Epic Metal. And we thought in the days of epic metal were back then when we started, but also today. I mean, today meaning when we released our third album, because we wanted to bring back this kind of feeling, this kind of this type of album and those topics in 2020. When we started, I don't believe any of us would think we would still be doing it in 2020. I mean,
and here you are doing
it
in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like in the 80s where where bands were releasing albums. I mean, every year, album tour, and or live album, and then one year for promotion and stuff, and then again a new studio album. Nowadays, we release an album each, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, which is pretty. It is pretty. It is very easy to be 15 years older and having, I don't know, 3 albums, okay? But nevertheless, it's I'm 48 now, and when I started, for example, when I started playing in at the end of the 90s, like 95, I bought my bass guitar. I started playing bass. And I had a band. I played in a band. We weren't doing classic heavy metal. We were doing like power metal. Okay, it was. We were friends, and we were doing that power metal with. We had a keyboard player, 2 guitar players, and a keyboard player. We were doing things like those that power speed. With progressive elements, that was in fashion at the time.
That was the thing in Italy at the time. That when I was on Underground Symphony, I released the first Cauldron Born album in 1997, and every band on that label, it was mostly Italian bands on the label, and they were all playing this power metal, like symphonic power metal type stuff. So I guess it was a really big thing back then, right?
Yeah, it was the most popular kind of music. I mean, among the heavy metal listeners and among the musicians, it was very difficult to find classic heavy metal bands back then, or even classic thrash metal bands, or it was mostly at the time like death metal bands, some black metal bands, and mostly power symphonic power. Yeah. That was, and we started playing. For example, the bands that we were listening to at the time, we were listening to Dream Theater, the first 3 albums. I'm not so much I'm not a big Dream Theater fan, but I love the first album. I love it very much. The second, I mean, formally, I think it's a great album, but it's not my cup of tea. You know what I like. I'm not much into. I much prefer to listen to 70s progressive rock bands. For example, rock bands from Italy or England, of course. But I like a lot of the progressive rock season, of the 70 to 75, 1970s to 1973, 75, from Italy, bands from Italy. I really love it. So I'm not much into this progressive thing, but back then it was good. I mean, it was good to start out playing because I had never been with a band, with a serious band, okay, and that band was serious. I mean, people were very good musicians. I was the less proficient. I mean, everybody was great. I sucked at bass, but I learned many things because you learn when you play with better musicians than yourself. I believe it's better to play with people that play better than you. You have a lot to learn. Yeah.
Well, you're a good musician, and you're, and even more importantly, a really good songwriter. So that's, to me, being a songwriter is more important than being able to, do circus tricks with your fingers.
Yeah. The bizarre thing was that back then, I was playing bass, but I couldn't write songs. I mean, it was very difficult for me to write songs. I was never proficient in theory because I don't say it with. I'm not proud of it. Okay, I should study more. I should study more. But I can write my riffs and my songs. They are very simple. But I mean. I could only start writing when I bought my guitar. So with bass, I couldn't compose on bass for some strange reason. But when I bought a guitar, I started playing. I mean, I don't have formal. I mean, I didn't go to a teacher or anything for guitar. I attended some lessons for bass guitar, but for electric guitar, I wasn't. I never sought for a teacher. I just wanted to I just wanted to play classic heavy metal, and the urge was so great that I went and bought this guitar, and the same day I was I was writing riffs, and this happened I think at the end of the 90s, 1999, something like that, 1998, 1999. I bought this guitar and started writing, and those songs. They started, So for some strange reason, I was only writing lyrics when I started playing with this band I was telling you about. The band was called Victorian Age. Unfortunately, it was a strange time and a strange situation, and we didn't even record a demo or something. We have some songs. We still have some songs from the garage, recorded, in a quite unprofessional way. And we did a studio recording or two, but we never realized anything. I mean, we never had a real demo out or tried to record an album. But it was a good experience. But back then. I remember one thing that I always think about, because I often think about it, how difficult it was back then to find what instead today is so common. I mean, nowadays you have labels releasing a lot of classic heavy metal albums, okay, and a lot of bands that they speak about, for example, Howard or Lovecraft. Back then, I remembered only you, okay? I remember Manila Road. I remember Whistkiller. I mean, having a song about the movie, okay, Riders of Doom, about the Conan movie. I don't remember so many musicians, European or American, speaking about Lovecraft or speaking about Howard. I mean, in the classic metal, I'm not speaking about Morbid Angel. I mean, in the classic metal style, okay. I don't classic or technical metal, but USP, what nowadays we call USPM, okay, US Power. But it was very difficult. Nowadays, you have a lot of people doing it, but back then, I mean, I was on the hunt for records and demos and everything, but it was a very dark period. I don't know how you saw it from from your side of the ocean. I mean, was it a good period or was it a bad period when you started out? I mean, when you put out, for example, the God of Metal and not God, your demo. What was called Sorcery and Science.
That's right.
Yeah. How did you see it from your side of?
Well, as far as over here, we had to contend with grunge. Now, I don't think that was big of a problem in Europe and maybe other areas, but here it was terrible because everybody was just following trend, whatever trend. In the music business, they're professional tastemakers, and they say, okay, this decade, this is the kind of music you're going to buy, and they tell people this, and they tell them that through MTV and whatever, and the media. They hated heavy metal. I mean, there was even we couldn't even get a I rented a practice space, and it was expensive too, and the guy kicked us out of there because we weren't playing trendy music. He didn't want us rehearsing there, because we weren't playing alternative grunge or whatever was fashionable back then. But you always have these things with people kissing the ass of trends, but you don't have that so much now because of the internet. The internet's been, like everything, is a double-edged sword, and the internet's been in some ways bad for selling your music, and in other ways it's been very good for heavy metal because it eliminates that barrier between the people who want to make heavy metal and the people who want to listen to heavy metal. Whereas back then, there were still people in the United States wanting to listen to heavy metal, but they were ridiculed and they were blocked from being able to connect to it. But as far, and when I would start doing these interviews for these fanzines overseas, the guys would say about American heavy metal. I said, "What do you mean American heavy metal? You mean like Korn and Limp Bizkit?" Because I didn't know anybody even acknowledge bands like Omen, and they were just kind of forgotten. Nobody over here was listening. That even back in the 80s, those bands, people weren't paying attention to those bands, and people will write reviews on Cauldron Born albums, and they'll say, "Oh, obviously influenced by Manila Road." And look, I love Manila Road, but Manila Road was zero influence on my music because I didn't even know about them. Nobody knew or cared about that band back in the 80s. Nobody here knew who they were. And I think it was really the Europeans' interest in Manila Road that kind of brought Mark Shelton's career back to life. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree about that. It's we see it from the European. I always saw it from the European side. Okay, and I could never really understand what was going on in the States. But back then it was pretty difficult to find this kind of themes. And for example, I was on the hunt for records that are even in the cover art. Okay, that they had some they referenced in a way the authors or the type of stories that I wanted to hear spoken of in the lyrics. And sometimes it was just like it wasn't working because maybe as you were saying in your interview with Matthew Knight, okay, on a similar question, okay, and sometimes you were buying a record and you expected you saw a very beautiful some kind of battle scene or a barbarian with an axe trying to is about to kill a monster or something like that, and you expect some a different kind of record, and instead it's just it's a good record perhaps, but it doesn't have anything that lyrical thing that you are looking for. And nowadays instead I see there's a lot of that, but at the same time I don't feel better. I was feeling better back then when there was nothing, but those things that you could find, they were like real diamonds, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And nowadays there's a lot of it, but it's like when you are when you want to eat pizza, okay, and you go to a place and you find like one or two types of pizza that you really like. And of course, I don't want to bring a form of art back down to the level of pizza, but just to give an idea of it, I mean, you get to a pizza restaurant, you find 2 or 3 types of pizza, and this was back then. And sometimes you go there to eat pizza, and they say, "Oh, we have only hamburger," okay, and you eat hamburger, and the day after you go and you eat hamburger, and then after 3 months you find one type of pizza, and you eat it, and it's fantastic. Okay, it's really a fantastic pizza. Nowadays, you get to the record store. Okay, there's no physical record store. There's not many still exist in existence physical record store. But let's say you go to an online store or whatever. They have a catalog with a lot of classic metal albums, pizzas. Okay, and you have all the flavors you want, and you buy them all, and then you eat them all. But the flavor is not the same. And I don't know if it is a psychological trick, some kind of if it's the mind factor doesn't allow me to find the taste that I'm looking for, or if it is because actually back then the few things, the few records that actually came out were the product of a bigger passion. I can say that, but this is what I see in the scene nowadays. And we are part of the scene nowadays, and of course, if somebody listens somebody listening to this conversation we have, perhaps they will think Marco is an asshole. Okay, he thinks he's somebody else. He thinks he's something else. He thinks he's better than us. No, I'm not better than anybody. I can barely play guitar. I can barely sing. Okay, I'm not. Let's say that I'm not good. Okay, there are people that are very good at doing it, very good at singing, very good at writing songs. But I remember what it was, for example, in the middle 90s, and I remember that when I was listening to some demos or records that had, for example, lyrics inspired from certain authors or from certain themes, like, I don't know, H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, sword and sorcery topics and authors, they were really, most of the times, they were really standing out. Whereas now that books are very easy to come by. I mean, I couldn't find books back then. It was difficult for me. It was difficult. You sent me books. I couldn't find them. I remember you sent me, I have them here. You sent me books that I couldn't find here. And back then, even the Italian translation, I couldn't find, let alone the originals, okay? Because it was, when I started reading, it was pre-internet. You couldn't order through internet. Now with everything, you just need the money. Nowadays, you just need money. If you have a few bucks, you can have everything you want, okay? From all the authors of the world. But back then, I had to find a phone number, or I had to find a mail, a snail mail, a normal mail address, and write to the States and make, and have the catalog delivered on paper, okay, from the States to Italy to order books. It was really difficult. Here where I'm living in the Venice area, in the northeast of Italy. This is like I don't know. It is not like being in London, okay, or being in New York, or being in some kind of more civilized, not civilized, but I mean, you know what I mean. I don't think New York is more civilized than where I'm, because okay, but I mean, it's a place that gives you some. It makes easier for you to find the things and to do things, okay, sometimes. And where I was living, there was basically nothing. I mean, I had problems even finding, I wanted to read Dracula, Bram Stoker novel. It's my favorite book, by the way. Strangely enough, is my favorite book. But that book, I had to order it. Can you imagine nowadays going to a bookstore and having to order Dracula? I mean, they have like 6 or 7 different editions there. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was going to the bookstore close to my place when I was living with my parents a few years ago, and I had to order it. They didn't have it. I had to wait a week to have it, to buy it. This people now, I believe people, especially the younger musicians now, or they I don't think they have really an idea, concept of how it was, let alone recording an album or anything before the PC. But I mean, just trying to find the material that was serving as inspiration for what you wanted to do with music. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's movies, the same about movies. I mean, it was difficult to find some movies. Nowadays, they are all most of them, not all, but most of them you can find them, okay, both on a digital version, or you can find the VHS or the DVD, the ones that were published and released in DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But back then, it was very difficult to find certain movies from some normally horror movies, or some movies that now became cult movies. But back then, it was very difficult. At least from my perspective, I probably in the States, in certain cities it was easier. But here it was. I was living in a place that was not receptive to this kind of how can I say, resources. Okay, it's,
I was fortunate. I lived in Atlanta, and I taught at the corner of Buford and Claremont in a guitar shop called American Custom Guitars. And there was a big used bookstore across from there called Book Nook, and it's really famous, or was at one time, bookstore in Atlanta. And when I would have a break, like 2 cancellations in a row, that would be an hour, and I would go over there and just comb the bookshelves for these old sword and sorcery books and whatever. Back then, it was just a real treat just to find something in the wild like that. But now, like you mentioned, everything is so accessible, and because it's so accessible, there's little to no value placed on it anymore. And you're talking about all these heavy metal bands are singing about these things that we were doing back then. And they're not doing it because of it's going to make them a lot of money or anything, but I don't think some of them, I don't know how serious they are, or if it's some sort of ironic thing to them that they do that it's something they're really passionate about. Maybe they are, but anyway, for what it's worth. Now I wanted to ask you. We were talking about sword and sorcery, and of course, that's a big part of what the podcast is about. Of course, heavy metal too, which we've been talking about a lot. And I know in Italy, we just discussed how hard it was to get these books. And a lot of sword and sorcery works better in short story or novelette or novella form. But could you name 5 sword and sorcery novels that would be your top 5 books? Now, not collections, but novels. Now that should be somewhat easier to do than collections, because there are so few great sword and sorcery novels.
Well, Howie, you have me at a loss here, because the point is I'm reading mainly short stories, or I'm more into that kind of form. Sword and sorcery novels, except for the ones that they are implicit in what we are talking about, like for example, Howard of the Dragon from Howard, which is of course a novel. But it's not, for example, I like Howard of the Dragon, but it's not my favorite Howard story. Okay, I prefer this style when it is kept short. Okay, maybe it's a matter of how my mind works. Okay, it's a personal take, of course, on it. For example, I don't know if it can be considered a sword and sorcery, because as you see, probably you notice speaking with me, also today. I mean, I have a rather imprecise, not so precise use of the terminology. I mean, for example, for me, I have some books here that I had taken out. One of my favorite authors, and one of my favorite, not my favorite authors, but because he was writing a lot of things, and most of them, some of them, a good bit of them, I'm not so much into. But for example, one of the authors that I started with that I really love is Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter. Okay,
yeah, handsome cover there too. Hey, you mind holding that up again for just a minute? I said that's a handsome cover.
Yeah,
it looks awesome. Yeah, push it up a little bit more so we can see that. I mean, up and back up a little bit. That looks really cool. So how does that translate exactly there?
It is this is Sotto le lune di Marte. It means under the moons of Mars.
Okay.
Yeah, under the moons of Mars. And this is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Il Signore della Guerra di Marte, the Warlord of Mars. The Warlord of Mars.
Yeah, another great one.
Yeah, I mean, the first 3, I have them in this format. Okay, I mean it's and then I bought also, you know, all the books in the saga. I don't know if you can for example, this book and the subsequent books. I mean, do you, and the following books, is it sword and sorcery literature for you?
That's what we call Sword and Planet. But now here's the connection. That the first book, Apprentice of Mars, that Burroughs wrote with John Carter, about John Carter, was published, I believe, in 1912. And my understanding is Robert E. Howard had more books by Edgar Rice Burroughs in his personal library than by any other author. So Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars was definitely an influence on Howard creating Sword and Sorcery. Sword and Planet is what that's called. Edgar Rice Burroughs, he's the father of Sword and Planet. But Sword and Planet, and a lot of folks don't know this, but it existed before Sword and Sorcery and was an influence on Sword and Sorcery. It's a science fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, this for example, those are not stories. Those are novels, and I can say by all means that I love those novels and they are among my favorites. But I couldn't name. For example, you were speaking. I was following the podcast, the second episode of your podcast, and it was vlog. How do you call it? Vlog, yes, because video with Matthew Knight, and it was, of course, he's very knowledgeable about this kind of literature, and he was naming a lot of novels and authors. I'm telling you, I'm reading stories. So I wouldn't be able to tell you my top 5. I don't even have 5. I mean, I haven't read 5 novels that I am sort of social novels that I can name among my favorites. You know what I mean? It's mostly about story.
How about this? How about 5 short stories?
5 short stories. I believe 5 short stories. I would. I believe I would stay within the Howard world. Okay, because it's my favorite author of the style among the ones that I know. I mean, I've been reading also other authors, but I don't find the same. I don't find the same chemistry that I find in what he was doing. Okay, and probably it is because I'm just like this. I mean, when I like something, I keep on going there and there and there, and then sometimes I expand on something else, but then I come back to what I love best. This is also why I believe I will never be able to write, to be a writer, because to be a writer, in my opinion, you must read, okay, and you must read several types of. I mean, you must read a lot of things that are inside and outside of your sphere of interest and your sphere of action as a writer. To be able to write a believable story, I think you have to be a fan of the style and have a knowledge and being very well learned about that style. So you have to read a lot of authors, you have to read novels, you have to read a lot of stories. I'm reading stories and I'm reading different authors, but in the end I always go back to my favorites, you know what I mean? So when I have to find the inspiration for a song, for example, that has this kind of themes, I always go back to my favorites. So with that being said, I believe my favorite story from Howard is The Tower of the Elephant. This is my top, my favorite story. Then I like a lot Rocks in the House, another one I love. But then some of my favorite, let's say that my one of the most influential stories, let's say, at least the one that really inspired me a lot, also in writing heavy metal music and lyrics. Even though I never referenced it in any song or any other type of creative output, was the Shadow Kingdom, the King Kull story, which is probably I love Conan, but I believe for my taste, I find that the King Kull stories more sophisticated in a way than the Conan stories. I mean, it's easier for me to read the Conan stories, and I get a different, a more immediate feeling from reading them. But as studying atmosphere and studying dramatic, how can I say, in building a dramatic atmosphere and in giving you those feelings of, how can I say, of very dense, barbaric, very dense, barbaric mood. Okay, I believe the King Kull stories from the production of Howard, they are not paralleled. Okay, I think that they have a niche of their own, and they stay. The Mirrors of Tuzun Tun also is another story I really love, and Black Colossus.
Those are great choices there.
Yeah.
And back to the Kull stories. I think they had this atmosphere about them and more of a dreamlike quality to some of it. And also Kull was more of an introspective character than Conan. So, I mean, would you agree with that, or do you?
Yes. He Conan is much more, at least the way he is depicted in the stories, in our stories. He's a much more immediate kind of character. Let's say that he faces that there is a problem to be faced, and he reacts. Okay, for him to think is to act. Okay, to think is to act. King Kull, he has the same type of reactions. Of course, if he's faced with some kind of danger, he will react instantly. But when he is in his palace and when he has time to think, he has a very deep he has very deep thoughts. Whereas in the Conan stories, I mean, you most of the time you don't really see him or see him described as intent on thinking about he's thinking about those very cosmic questions or questions that have something to do with their reality, which is above the material level. You know what I mean? More like the destiny of man, or why history repeats and evolves in a certain way instead of another. What is his role in the whole? What is the real meaning of his power as a king? I mean, what he is not asking I mean, Conan is not asking existential questions. Okay, he's only asking for he's only asking for the chance to express himself and to have personal satisfaction, which is I don't know. He have to find the goal he needs to go to the tavern and and drink and have the women that he wants, or he has some kind of ancestral tension, attitude, not attitude, tension. He wants to have some kind of a social he wants to upgrade his condition. He wants to reach power, but not for power itself. I mean, it is like somebody who was born. Now probably I will say something that is totally out of, you know, but he is like the poor guy, okay, that he was living. He was seeing how the rich people were living, okay, and he wanted to have a piece of it, okay. Conan wants to have a piece of it, but it doesn't feel like he's the illuminated king, okay. He doesn't have the mission of being a king. It is like an achievement, okay, for him. He by his sword, his strength, and this persistence, he will have a piece of it, okay. But when he has a piece of it, in the end, he doesn't know what to do with it. I mean, it's something that I mean, King Kull also, when he gets to that, he doesn't know what to do with that. It gives him more being a king for Kull is more a problem than a solution. I mean, he's always thinking and having those deep thoughts and having those existential questions in his head. Whereas Conan, perhaps he doesn't have those questions, or at least in the books we don't. Perhaps sometimes he has vague questions like why this thing happens. So I mean, why this magic? Why this sorcery? How did it happen? But in a second, it goes out of his mind because he always has something to do. He has a necromancer to kill, or he has a woman to rescue or whatever. He doesn't have time for that. But the thing is that, in my opinion, Conan is much more immediate and much more and much less how can I say, sophisticated, if I can say that. He's much less sophisticated than Kull, and being more sophisticated, the Kull stories, they ask for a different type of state of mind. You must be in a state of mind that allows you to taste the richness and the detail and the nuances of those stories, as opposed to some more immediate Conan stories, okay, where problem solution, there's no in between. Right. So I agree with what you said about it. I don't know. There were always, for example, speaking of comic books, I think that there were some good stories, very good comic book stories, original stories, written for King Kull. Also, I remember one. I don't remember the name of the story, but he was fighting against werewolves. There were werewolves in that story. I don't know if you're familiar with. I don't remember.
Comic, though, right? That was in a comic book.
A comic book, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I haven't read that many of the Kull comic books. I've read, of course, the original Kull text, and I don't even know if you were able to get those, or if I sent you a copy of a collection of Kull texts or not years ago. But I haven't read that many of the Kull comic books. They used to put a shorter Kull story in the back of Savage Sword. Sometimes they would have a shorter Kull story. Or is that where you read it?
Well, I read several short stories on, as you said, on the back of Savage Sword, or what the Italian version was. But those they came out as graphic novels. Was some kind of graphic. They were books. Only they were. How can I say? This specific comic, I will find it out, not now, because I didn't think about it before. Otherwise, I would have found it. But now it's it's a problem to take it out. But it is a whole comic book in the format like a graphic novel, and it has one or two cool King Kull stories, and one of those is I don't remember the title, but it's a fantastic story with werewolves, and it's great. I mean, sometimes even the comic book stories, they retain the same feelings of the stories. I mean, like this story is I'm not saying it is as good as the Shadow Kingdom, for example, but as the framework of the story is very similar, and it's also the psychology of the characters. It's very well depicted. For example, I really like from the King Kull stories. I really like the fact that it's not only King Kull, but it's also there's also the other characters. Brule of the Lance. Yeah, it's one of my favorite characters. It's richer. I think that is in a way it is richer than Conan, which I love more than anything. But I think, and I believe it's quite underrated because, for example, the first musician that I heard was writing lyrics about King Kull. It was you. When you were doing by the Zaxai rule, I was like, I was blown away. It was really fantastic. Nowadays, there's bands that do it, okay, but it's not it's not treated, it's not used as often as an inspiration compared to that to other characters. I believe he deserves more as a character. Solomon Kane also. Solomon Kane is another character that I would love to see more often in spoken of in through lyrics in heavy metal albums. But
well, maybe that should be on the next Dexter Ward album. And speaking of which, is there a fourth Dexter Ward album on the horizon? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, we have been writing music and lyrics for some months now. Some ideas are more or less structured for full songs. Some others are just bits and pieces that we have to assemble and in a coherent way and to give it shape. So it's early now because we don't have demos for all the songs, but we have a good number of ideas, more or less more or less finished. Okay, so I believe it will be an album that hopefully it will be released in 2025. I don't believe this year we can manage to do it. It's we don't want to rush things because normally the good things take their time, and we try to do to have to improve from album to album. So the first one, the second was better in some aspects compared to the first. And the third, we believe, is the best we did. So the fourth, we would like to expand on what we did so far and adding some, better elements, better songwriting. First of all, better songwriting, fresher ideas, also lyrical ideas to have very good stories to tell, and also to have good, good riffs, good songs that will stand the test of time. And of course, thing is, everybody wants to do, their latest album. They want it to be their best album. But what we try to do, I believe we managed to do it so far. I mean, every album has something better than the previous. Even for example, the second has a much better sound than the first. This alone is an improvement, okay, and we are going towards an improvement on all sides, all the sides of songwriting, production, and lyrics, everything. So for the fourth album, what we have so far, there are songs that are quite in the style of the most epic songs of the third. So it's an album that I mean it's not like a new wave of British metal, straight type of riffing, okay, or straight type of songs, linear structure, okay, verse. Chorus, verse, chorus, with the delay. No, it's a more. The songs are telling a story. Okay, the songs are evolving in a way that they tell a story. So I'm not going. I don't have for the moment. I don't have for example, titles to give or details, because I would like to give them when we have something, in our hands and we can say, okay, this is it. Because, for example, I have titles in mind, but perhaps they are not going to be used. But we have a song that hopefully we will be able to put on. Hopefully, we are going to be able to put it on the new album, which was a song that we wanted to. It was ready for the third album, but we didn't include it because it was a matter of length. We wanted to be able to release the album on on single vinyl, and it would be a problem to have it. So we had some other songs. The strongest of them, some other songs that we didn't use for the third album. They were written in the same time frame that we wrote the bulk of the third album, the majority of the songs of the third album, and it is called, the title is Jurassic World, which is not about the movie. It's not about the movie Jurassic World, but it is it speaks about one topic, a topic that I always had in mind, but it's not so popular. I mean, I don't find so much fascination for this topic among the heavy metal fans generally. When I think about, I was trying to explain before, but my poor English doesn't allow me to express it in a clear way. When I think about dinosaurs, I have a real fascination with dinosaurs. It comes from when I was a kid. When I think about dinosaurs, and I think about how long they ruled the Earth, okay, they ruled the planet, it seems impossible to me that such beings, they didn't have their own civilization. Of course, it is very difficult try to see it from from a kind of not from a realistic point of view. Try to see it from a fiction story, from a fictional idea, from some entertainment purposes. Okay, try to see it that way. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if they actually were able to, in some way, probably not the dinosaurs that we know now, but probably some other kinds of beings that were similar to dinosaurs, but they could also, probably with some telepathic powers or some, to build their own civilization with their buildings, their temples, okay, their kingdoms, and fight against each other in the most savage fights ever. Okay, I mean, the ultimate idea of barbaric power for me is the fight between dinosaurs. I mean, when I see the dinosaurs fighting with each other, for example, I see this landscape, okay, with these volcanoes and those swamps and insects as big as crocodiles, and those extremely awesome, terrifying animals, okay, fighting for survival against each other. This for me is like the most barbaric idea I can conceive. Okay, for me it's fantastic, and I would like to be there and to see them. Okay, and this is a dream I have since I was a small child. I mean, to see it, to see the primeval rage. Okay, for me this is the ultimate dream. So I had this song many years ago. It was called Cretacean Race Fights.
From Hyrkanian Blades Day.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't think you would remember it because it was just a riff, but it was. I liked it. I liked the idea very much. and it was a song that was speaking about that. I mean, the savage battles between different types of dinosaurs. Okay. Which sounds like a video game now, but I wasn't imagining it like a video game. I mean, it was imagined like in real life, okay? And so I wrote this song. We wrote this song, okay? I wrote the lyrics, and then we arranged it together with the guys and did the song, the music, and it's a song that starts from the perspective of a person like me, like you, okay, that dreams about this thing, okay, that wants this thing, wants to remember these things, because in his mind those things really existed. I mean, those beings were rulers of this world, and they had the most savage fights. They were the ultimate barbarians. So the whole song is about this feeling of melancholy. For this, the description of the fights and everything, but these feelings of melancholy about not being able to witness this, firsthand, and the sadness of realizing that those fights and those incredible scenes are forever lost. Okay, so in the end, the second part of the song, they speak about it, like only few people remind about that, but only few people think about it and remember about those things. I mean, just not remember because they have never seen it, but they just have the imagination to think that those things might have happened, okay? And they feel like they feel melancholic because this fantastic savagery and barbarism is not to be known anymore; it's forever lost. And the song speaks about, we still hear the battle cries we still hear the battle cries. What for most people on Earth, which is like heavy metal, what for most people on Earth is not even conceivable, okay, we long for. Okay, so this is the theme behind Jurassic World. And then I put also some other things that I borrowed from Howard, from Clark Ashton Smith, from just as small things. Okay, it's not about it's not a quote or anything, but just some small things. For example, how those times they connect with the themes and stories that actually came. I mean, some themes that you find in the fights between dinosaurs, you find them also in the heroic fantasy, sword and sorcery stories. Okay, there's no dinosaurs, but there are human characters, or human or humanoid. Okay, in some way, type of characters, but they are the same principles. So the thing is, why couldn't they have built their own, civilization and been more than just, animals? Okay, I mean, to me, they were warriors. I don't know if it makes sense. I mean, maybe I'm just an asshole. I mean,
that's a very interesting. Concept there. And when you told me about this, you told me a little bit, but not as much. Explained it like you did just now. But maybe, I don't know, what was it, 20, 30 years ago we were talking about, you had this idea for the song, and I thought it was great back then. But yeah, it sounds really awesome. Man.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. That's one of the songs. And then there are some other songs. I have a song. We did a song. Okay, I did the demo, and we hopefully we can work it out with the guys. It's called The Second Coming. The Second Coming, which is not related to sword and sorcery, but it came from this pandemic period. Okay, this pandemic period, I had a lot of time on my hands, and tried to research on many things, and one of them was alien civilizations and the whole UFO thing and people who are in contact with. They say they are in contact with alien beings and one of the themes that have been brought out for many decades now is the way the UFO thing is in a way linked to some religious aspects. For example, the second coming of the Christ. Okay, so this thing is not a matter of, as I was telling you, I'm not speaking about the personal beliefs, but I just when I write songs, I just think about. I mostly think about is it an interesting topic? I mean, can the song be developed in a way that is that speaks about this, but it speaks about maybe metaphorically about many other aspects that are not the literal. I can say the literal
biblical interpretation
meaning
of it.
Sorry.
It's not biblical interpretation of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, there is. Okay, here we speak about the second coming of the Christ, but I mean, what else can you read in this? I mean, this is what is written, okay? And then again, how can you translate it to what's going on in the human society nowadays, okay, in the human history, how the world changed in the last, or at least how what we saw developing in the latest years. So it's not a religious take on it. It's more like a feeling of having your certainties shaken, having your ideas for the future in a way broken in pieces. I mean, you expected something, I expected something different, okay? And I saw in many people, in many situations, in the institutions that rule that make the rules that I have to follow in my lifetime. I see some things that I hadn't seen before. I was naive, probably. I hadn't noticed before, but I know these things, and most certainties that I had for the future, or what I believed were logical steps in which my life would develop in the future. My life is not developing in those ways. It's totally fucked up. Okay, it's really shook up at every level. So. This second coming is okay. The Christ is coming back. Okay, the second coming of the Christ. The end of the world. Okay, it's Judgment Day. Okay, what the fuck is going to happen? I mean, it's just imagine from not from a religious perspective, but from a really I don't know. Materialistic perspective to wake up one morning and to find out that you are going to die, okay, that some part of humanity will in a way go on, evolve probably in a different way, and some others will not, okay, and you don't have any saying in that. It's just going to happen, okay, it is just going to happen. Really interested me. This topic comes out a lot when you speak about UFOs, for example, because many of those people that say they are in contact with alien civilizations, alien beings, they say that in a way this thing is going to happen. Okay. I'm not saying I believe it or I don't believe it, but I find it interesting. I like the concept, you know what I mean? So I wanted to do a song about it. And so the song started, and we have the first part, which I believe is quite good, also musically speaking. But we have to see how to develop the rest, because I don't want it to be like the things that have been said again and again. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like a a narration of the prophecies. I wanted to give a twist that would link it more to what's going on nowadays. Okay, but at the same time, I don't want the song to be something that is related only to the society, to the news, because I like this. I like those epic themes. I like those. I like to dress the story with an imagery that is a little more interesting and that can be read in different ways. Okay, I mean, it's not like heavy metal is not like reading a newspaper. I mean, in my opinion, you should find the right words and the right way to express the concepts in order for people to. Maybe different people will read something different in what you say. Okay, not to be cryptic or to be deceiving, but to put things with an interesting in an interesting way, so that and you don't have to be so straight to the point. I mean, so direct. I mean, I like when I like those lyrics that I can read. And I can find some nuances, some things that maybe somebody else will not, okay, or vice versa. I don't know if it makes sense, but to me it does.
Yeah, you're talking about like perception on multiple levels.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, Marco, is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up today?
Well, I believe I took more time from you than.
No, I'm glad you did it. So that's awesome. It's great when I have a guest on who will talk and carry the show. But can you think of anything else you want to tell anybody about Dexter Ward? Any announcement or anything?
Well, not really, except for one thing that is very important for us, and thank you for giving me the time and space to speak a little about it. We are going to finally to be able to play in the States at the end of August at the Blades of Steel Metal Fest in Madison, Wisconsin. I've never been there because I've been there I've been in the States only once, and as I was mentioning before, in 2001 when we met, it was Kalamazoo. Now it's another state and another city, and we are. I believe this is the ultimate achievement for us, and I still can't believe it's going to happen. I mean, for example. We are there, okay. We are booked for the show. I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to play our kind of heavy metal too, which is strongly inspired from American bands, which are most of our inspirations. They come from the United States. I mean, of course, we were inspired from British bands, but most of our favorite bands they come from the States. So. It's something special for us. I don't think I can express how much it means for us and for me on the first. Since we are speaking, me and you, for me it's really something mind blowing. But that being said, I'm still I can't believe it. Okay, it's something really big for us. So we are going to be there, and this is what I wanted to say. If there is anybody who is interested in this kind of form of art and this kind of music, and just check out the Blades of Steel Metal Fest page. There's a Facebook page, or you search for Randy Kastner, which is the gentleman who invited us and who is organizing the show. He's a great guy, and I haven't met him personally yet because he was in Greece, but I couldn't be there. So I mean, many things didn't work out, but they worked out this time. So if you managed if any of you managed to be there and to support the festival, not for us, but for the I'm not saying the future, but for the well-being of this kind of music in the States, I believe this kind of festivals, and this festival in particular, but there are many others. It's very important to. It's something that's very important to give your support to. So that's what I wanted to say. Another thing I wanted to say is to. I don't know, to keep an eye open on our album when it will be released, the fourth album. We don't have a title yet. And if you if you're not familiar with Dexter Ward, and you manage to listen to my wanderings and my bad English, my broken English so far, and perhaps you find you find that my ideas in some way are resonating with your views about heavy metal or or lyrics or whatever, just give us a chance, and you can perhaps think to invest some minutes and check out some of our songs. I would suggest to start from the latest album, 3, which I believe is our best. And that's and of course, last but not least, I wanted to thank you, Howie, for many years of support. Because okay, we don't see we met just once for a brief amount of time. We didn't even speak so much, but I have very fond memories of that of that day that I saw, because I can say that I saw Cauldron Born live, which is not something many people can say. I mean, I attended a Cauldron Born show. It's one of the highlights of my career as a heavy metal listener and fan. And you always supported me from day one, even when I was okay. You listen to this show and you don't know, but I mean, I was coming back from work, like I was working all night. I was working a night shift, and I was coming back, and I was logging in what was an IRC channel at the time, I think. And I was just a young guy, and I had just started playing guitar, and I was sending my riffs to Howie, and he was already an accomplished musician, a recording musician, a guitar teacher. I mean, okay, an accomplished musician, and he had the time and the patience to listen to my efforts and to give me feedback so that I could improve. And after that, I actually released albums. I sang for a band. I wasn't singing for I wasn't singing for a band. I became a singer. I became a songwriter. I mean, I have Howie is one of the people that from day one supported me the most, and I still can't understand why you did, because I mean, it's still a mystery to me.
Well, I knew the inspiration was there, and the music was genuine, and it was good. It was good songwriting. I knew you had potential. I'm pretty good at spotting potential, so I knew it was there. But yeah, I certainly appreciate the kind words and the conversation today. And we'll go ahead and wrap up. It's been great having you on here. I appreciate you coming on and helping me get this podcast rolling. And this has been Marco Concoreggi and Howie Bentley for Sword and Sorcery Heavy Metal. Tune in next week for the next episode.